They say that motherhood changes your life, and while I had expected it to change my life, I wasn't totally prepared the extent of which that the changes brought into my life, my husband's life, and our lives together collectively. The changes that are good, chaotic, and overwhelming, the changes that are insanely joyful. And I have felt and am feeling all of these emotions and then some more to the very extremes. Motherhood breaks you down completely, but somehow when you feel like you have nothing left to give, you seem to find a hidden well to draw some more inner strength. Motherhood also builds you up to be the most complete and wholesome person you have ever known yourself to be.
Welcome to the Sacred Listening Podcast, a sanctuary for those who feel overwhelmed, overscheduled, and overbusy. In this podcast, we explore the various paths of restoring balance in our body from issues such as depletion, anxiety, chronic pain, and stress. We do this by redefining what self-care means on an individual level as we dive into cutting-edge research, personal stories, expert interviews, as well as listening in to the magic and mysticism of our body's wisdom. Join me in reclaiming your health, well-being, and your sense of self. This is part 2 of my episodes on my personal journey of matrescence. Matrescence is the process, changes, and transformations that a person goes through during pregnancy, birth, postpartum period, and beyond. In part 1, I shared some details about how our baby girl came earthside and the learnings I got along the way about self-nurture. And today in part 2, I will be sharing my personal experiences thus far, 1 year into motherhood, and again, what lessons I've learned, what I had thought self-nurture to be, and have to really reframe my approach and my beliefs around self-nurture. And you'll see that always self-nurture is an evolving process. There's no right or wrong way, and it evolves with your life circumstances. It evolves with the context of your life and any changes and transformation you are undergoing or have undergone. The fact is, I wasn't even sure whether I wanted kids until 2.5 years ago. My husband was kind of ambivalent, could go either or. I knew my parents definitely wanted grandchildren, but they never really gave me that amount of pressure in terms of needing to give them grandchildren, which I was definitely grateful for. It was through actually a plant medicine journey 2.5 years ago that it was revealed to me that part of my healing in this lifetime is through nurturing and mothering another human being. And not just any human being, but a human being birthed from me. I won't go into the full details of the plant medicine journey. If you do want the full details, you can definitely private message me and we can chat about it. But I will say there was one very explicit moment during the plant medicine journey where the epiphany happened that I am meant to be a mother in this lifetime. I remember that moment I was feeling cold as the medicine was settling in. And so my husband had wrapped me up in some blankets and kind of cradled me in his lap and started rocking me. It was then that I bursted into tears because little did I know I had craved this kind of tenderness and nurturance growing up. It wasn't that my parents neglected me. It was just that our family didn't show emotions in that way. We didn't show emotions verbally or physically. It's the traditional Chinese or East Asian family culture where love is shown through providing a good house and providing a good education. So here we were,
two adults, me being rocked. And as I was calming down from the burst of tears, I looked at a framed photo on the wall in our cabin. So during this plant medicine journey, we were actually out in the woods of Olympic National Park and had rented a cabin. So I was looking at this framed photo through teary eyes and from the angle I was lying on the bed. All I saw at that point, because my eyes were watery and teary, what I saw in that framed photo at that point was a soft pink blur. And I wasn't sure what that pink blur was, but in the middle, at that moment, there was something that looked and resembled an embryo, a fetus, embraced and held so lovingly by this pink blur. And this particular pink felt so nurturing, so tender, motherly pink. I looked at it for a long, long time. I don't remember how long, but eventually I sat up to take a closer look. There, in that photo actually, was a zoomed in photo of a tiny frog. So tiny that it sat at the center of this pink blossom. So that was the pink blur I was seeing. It was the petals of this tender and motherly pink flower. When I saw clearly again for what it was, tears started streaming again. To me, this tiny frog held so tenderly, so lovingly by this flower in a way that I want to be held. And in that moment, I realized even if I lacked the affection and tenderness from a mother growing up, I could still heal my wound by giving it to a child, my child. So there, that declared my decision to become a mother. I realized I could heal my wound by mothering and nurturing, just like how that pink flower so gently mothers and nurtures that little frog. I'm recently diving into the book Nurture Revolution by Dr. Greer Kirschenbaum, who is a neuroscientist and a doula. Needless to say, the fact that the book has the word nurture in the title caught my attention as I was researching on not parent books per se, but more on the psychology of infant brain development, how different parenting styles contribute to, if any, on their mental health as they grow into adulthood. So I'm not finished with the book yet, but many things so far have resonated with me as I trek through this journey called motherhood. In the book, she terms the nurture cascade, which she uses to describe the more complex process when oxytocin is released in an infant's brain when the infant is bonding with the mother through breastfeeding, touch, care, play, and nurture. When the infant brain is bathed in oxytocin, the nervous system is more primed to be resilient as it grows and matures. Oxytocin is usually known as the, quote, love hormone or the cuddle hormone, where you feel really good inside, that warm and fuzzy feeling when you are hugging someone, cuddling with a loved one, etc. And of course, if you are a mother, you know that feeling when you are breastfeeding or cuddling with your child. The very cool thing is that this nurture cascade does not only impact the baby, but the primary caregiver as well, and especially the biological mother. When the primary caregiver or the biological mother nurtures the baby, she in return also gets bathed in oxytocin in this nurture cascade. This is evolution's genius design to keep a mother bonded to the baby for the baby's survival. And this got me thinking that self-nurture actually goes beyond just nurturing thoughts, beliefs, and actions towards oneself with oneself. We can nurture ourselves too when we unconditionally love and nurture another. With motherhood, there is so much nurture, but also patience, compassion, and forgiveness, especially towards oneself. When our beautiful baby girl arrived a year ago, I struggled so much in the first few months with my new identity as a mother. And I remember feeling so guilty about this struggle. If you listen to part 1 of this 2-part series, the struggle was also plagued by my grief and guilt on not having had a natural birth like I had wanted. So in these first few months, I was torn between my biological and primal need to be with this baby 24/7, to nurture, care, feed, and hold her. But at the same time, in my mind was a small but strong voice that I needed to continue my work as a yoga therapist as soon as possible so that I don't lose that identity that I built for myself over so many years, all that hard work and sweat and blood and tears I had put in to build my own business. I was afraid that I would get lost in this role as a mother and that I lose a sense of myself that is independent of being a child's mother. Looking back, I think I was afraid of losing my independence and thereby afraid that I'd become irrelevant. And this word, irrelevance, I feel like that's something many women who have or are becoming mothers are afraid of, whether they could identify or name it or not. It's as if by us becoming mothers and either temporarily or permanently leaving the workforce makes us irrelevant to the society because we live in a culture where our worth are measured and marked by how much money we make and what we contribute to the workforce. But this cannot be further away from the truth. Becoming mothers and raising children that then become kind, compassionate, and resilient adults is, without a question, the most important, albeit thankless, job there is, and the most relevant, especially today, in today's culture. And I am only realizing that now as the months passed and that I am approaching this 1-year mark. I am only realizing now that my identity is neither or, but is and will always be merged and immersed and entwined with being a mother, no matter what else I do with my career and my life outside of being a mother. Becoming a mother has informed and is informing and will inform all of my decision making, all of my inspirations and motivations for my life and work, and all of who I am and will become. Going back to Dr. Kirschenbaum's book, she also notes that it may take up to 3 to 4 years for a primary parent whose brain has physically changed and now wired to nurture the baby to find their new identity. Only now am I feeling, not even seeing the whole visual or picture, but feeling a glimmer of who I will be as a new Elaine. While just months ago, this would make me very frustrated and anxious, not knowing what the future holds and what I will be doing, today I am trying to embrace this season where I get to slow down and be marinated in this nurture cascade 24/7. My baby will not remain this small forever, and I will do what I can to cherish this time. The rest, it can wait. Because right now, the most relevant, purposeful, and nurturing thing I can do for myself is to nurture this little human. Self-nurture requires a raw, honest, and authentic relationship with yourself, but also with those who can receive your nurture fully and nurture you back in return. And I'm seeing that now. I'm feeling that now, just 1 year into motherhood, that this is the ultimate nurture. As exhausting, as frustrating, and sleep deprived as I could get, that those moments where you just bathe in this nurture is so priceless. So I'm not saying that everyone has to become mothers to a child or a fur baby or plants to feel that nurture or to nurture another. You can extend that nurture by just really giving a smile to someone who needs it that day. All of that will trigger that oxytocin release, that nurture cascade that Dr. Kirschenbaum speaks about. In summary, self-nurture doesn't include just things you do for yourself to nourish your soul, but also includes things that you can do for others that nourishes you and their souls. And isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful that just one kind action, that one nurturing action can impact more than one person? Well, I think it is beautiful. This concludes part 2 of this 2-part series on matrescence, my journey into motherhood. And perhaps you can ask yourself as we conclude today on who or what can you extend nurture to beyond yourself? And try it out. Just unconditionally nurture a person or even a thing. And even though the thing cannot really extend that nurture back, just giving out this nurturing feeling, this nurturing sensation, this nurturing touch, whatever action it is that is of nurture. See how that feels in your body. If you feel in return nurtured as well. Thank you so much for listening and joining me in this revolution to redefine self-care today. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review, rate, and subscribe. To connect with me, you can find me on elaineyoga.com, on Instagram at Elaine_yoga therapy, or join my email newsletter at elaineyoga.com/email.